Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I had a little scheduling snafu before this. I'm trying to go hardcore into into proofreading for my book. And doing other things so that I can get the book published and all of the paperwork for it is done, kosher, good, in the clip. The most important part is getting it completely proofread and edited so that whoever the book is going to for editing just says, okay, yes, good, fine, publish it. Now, this whole process, the way it seems, makes me wonder if my book, as per request, is going to Amelia Clark for her approval, for her review. So that would mimic, if it were like that, the peer review system used in academics, where your book, before it is published, in order to get published, not your book, but your article, your journal article, has to go to a group of somewhere between 4 and 6 experts in your field. And in this case, Amelia Clark would qualify because of the roles that she has played in science fiction movies. So I'm wondering if that's the deal, if that's what's going on. So I have to get it by her. Now, I've already gotten it by the point at which other authors that I've read, and I'm not saying that the minimum standard is what I'm shooting for, I'm not. But I've already gotten it by the point at which other authors have had their works published. So, right now, we're going for exceeds the minimum work done in an editing job. We have already exceeded a lot of other things. I have not read any other authors, and I have read many of the top new science fiction authors listed in Kindle. I have not read any of them who do things that I have done for their readers. They don't have footnotes. They don't have appendices. Many of them. Some of them do. That's me. They don't add voice for free for their audiences. I do. I do those things because it's important. I also, as I was working this morning on the proofreading, I found that for layout editing, iBooks Author, I think that's what the program is called, that is good for formatting and layout. I would not recommend trying to write anything or any original full-length work using that program. It is made for final typeset and doing things like adding covers and multimedia to text that you have already completed. That all of the editing for the text of your book is done. That is what that iBooks Author is used for. It is for the final layout and typesetting. It can't do things like that Pages or even Microsoft Word can do. If you have multiple photos that you just want to make entire pages of, one page after the other, you can't drop them into iBooks Author. In order to get documents, long documents into there, you have to import is the best way to do it. There has to be a way to get multiple pages dropped into iBooks Author when a program is open. But it seems to me each time I do that, it tries to create one single page and then drop a multi-page document into one single page. This is a problem that does not always occur, but recently, when I just tried it, it does. For instance, the same thing happens with Microsoft Word now on my MacBook computer. When I take 10 photos and drop them 10 page size or larger photos and drop them into my document. So I just use the normal drag and drop method. In recent history, I've done this before on both the Surface Book that is now malfunctions and my MacBook. And the program, the software, in the past has always seen that, oh, you have some items here, and they should not be dropped on top of one another. They should be laid out so that they're on separate pages because they're too big to all go on one page and be visible. Well, that's how it works now. That's how Pages works now, also on my MacBook. I do recall having this problem once before on the Surface Book recently, but there were other instances when it worked the way we're accustomed to word processing programs working. Multiple objects that can all fit on the same page. The program automatically creates new pages and distributes those items onto them. Maybe there's something that I'm forgetting to do first. Or maybe there's not. I just think it's really odd that something that definitely works on my Surface Book with multiple programs does not work with Microsoft Word or Pages on a MacBook. And this is not some obscure specialty function that Word might have. This is a standard function. It's just problematic. I, for instance, have a collection of photos, and I need to put my watermark on them, and then determine whether or not somebody wants to buy them from me. I do not want to load them onto the internet, so I'm not using my Photos program. These are items for sale, so I do not want to keep them in a iCloud account that is possibly compromised. I don't want to do that. So I keep them offline, and I'm going to put these digital works onto a thumb drive that somebody who has expressed interest in buying them is going to give me the money to purchase. I'm not going to accept a thumb drive that is handed to me. No. For the contact sheet, which is going to be watermarked photos, I'm going to use a thumb drive. They're going to tell me which photos they want and how much they're willing to pay for them. The suggested price for simple photos of an event might be something like somewhere between $4 and $6 per photo. I have about 1,600 photos, several videos. Now the videos are key. Those are nice. Why do this? Why take time away from my book? Don't I want to get the book out as quickly as possible? Yes, I do. But this was a family event, and somebody expressed interest in buying something that I spent a long time on, a lot of energy on, taking the photos. So, I need to spend some time on it and put some thought into it so that I do it correctly. And then I have to make up a receipt which serves as a contract once we decide upon the price. If no price is offered to me, I will just say I will pick a number between $4 and $5 and list that as the price. Outside of that, that's about it. Now, the other business is making sure that I have a bank account to receive any funds that come in from Apple iTunes. For some reason, my American Express Serve account cannot receive the funds. It was a surprise to Apple Books. Also, when the receipt of the funds was refused, they sent a check. It may have been an electronic check. It may have been an electronic payment. And I was told that they received a note from a bank that said, payment declined. Payment to the client is declined. This account cannot receive that kind of payment. Why did Apple attempt to do it and then take the trouble to go back and ask them why it was declined? Well, because the Serve account is specifically designed to take payments of all kinds, electronic or checks. There's nothing that says, and they give the bank routing number, bank ID, everything looks standard. When Apple fed it into its electronic system or whatever system they used, it came back legitimate bank, legitimate account. There is no indication that I tried to misuse an account. So it's just basically a fact that I'm forced to accept that that account will not take payments standard from Apple. So that is why I have to find a walk-in bank, a standard physical bank to do business with. Now that is my preferred mode of banking. That should be until we get to a point in the future that we are not yet at, where a point in which it is difficult to break the security systems of banks of great sizes, great and small. That should be everybody's preferred mode of banking, especially when you are setting up a home account or a small business account. Why? Well, the aftermath, the outcomes of frauds and security breaches at banks. How fast do you want this? How fast do you want something bad that happens taken care of? Exactly. So large companies, quickly. Small people, well, I don't need to go into that. So you just want to be able to walk into your physical bank and take care of transactions. That might prevent the fraud from occurring in the first place, and that's your best defense, to prevent the fraud from occurring in the first place. If somebody's specifically targeting you, they are going to specifically target you, and there's nothing you can do about that. If somebody has you surrounded on all sides, they're going to be able to get information off of you. But walking into the bank and having your face on a camera someplace, or just walking into the bank and having people recognize you, is one line of defense, among many others that physical banks have. So that's what you want to do. That's how you want to set up a personal or a small business account. And if you are an author, an actor, actress, I saw somebody use the term actor or actress online recently. If you are any of those, if you could fall into the category of self-employed, and yes, before you even sell your first book, before you even make $1, you should consider yourself, as long as you have proof of your work and that you're working at it every day, you should consider yourself self-employed. That is what you are. You are self-employed. And if you have an agreement of the kind that authors have with Apple, what is it? It is some sort of contractual agreement in which they present your work for sale. You do all of the work, you write the book, you arrange the papers, you staple it together, you design the cover. Or you elect to have no cover other than the title of the work. And they put it out there on market for sale for you. And then if you sell anything, they hand you a check. They'll even encourage good business practice by setting up positions for you to sell as though you are a larger company than just yourself. And I think once you do that, they will allow you to determine how much those people make on there, or if you are going to handle the payment of those people who work for you yourself offline through a separate contract. They encourage good business practice. They encourage the person to think about those things as they are setting up as you are setting up your publishing company. Because when you publish that way through Apple Books, you are your own publisher. You are truly self-employed. You can publish other people's books through iBooks also. You just have to not break the law, not commit a fraud, and make sure that they know that you are publishing their work and handing them a check. You have their permission to do it. Nobody, for instance, has my permission to sell my work for me or to sell my work and pocket it on their own. Whether they be a book, random writing, artwork. No one has my permission to do that. And maybe they would have my permission if circumstances were different, such as I didn't need the money or they had asked me first, but no one had asked me. No one has set up an understanding or offered a contract. So that has not occurred. But those are the things that are on my mind as I get into the final stages of really focusing and proofreading and getting my first book, first published book. This will be the first published book done. Again, my name is Oscar Carl Frang, and then these are just some notes that I think about. And it really is actually very useful to state during this 45 minutes of exercise that I have to think about something other than writing and why I have not seen $1 in sales or any book sales at all. I should say that I don't actually see, maybe what I'm seeing is not the e-bookstore, the Apple bookstore, but kind of a holding pattern that gives me time to prepare my first book. At least I hope that's what's going on. And I will also add a note about appointments. Making appointments, missing appointments, and rescheduling an appointment. People miss appointments all the time. Some people have no reason for missing them, some people do. Sometimes appointments are scheduled by those who you must make, or canceled by those who you must make them with. But my parents reminded me to do something today as I was in the process of missing an appointment because I was working. You need to call and you need to reschedule. So I did. I called. The bank, after 3 or 4 or 5 attempts, was not taking any calls. Everybody was busy. So yes, that can happen. Fine. So instead of just saying, I tried and giving up, I found a different way to reschedule an appointment. And if asked why I missed the other appointment, I'll say because I was trying to make up for lost time on writing and not missing a deadline that will provide a check for me to deposit in your bank. And that's not being snide. That's not being nonchalant or flippant. That is, I'm working hard and I'm opening this account so that I can deposit money in it. And that's exactly what I was working on and why I missed the appointment. Because there were some problems that occurred with my computer earlier that day and the night before, and the day before. There are hang-ups and delays anytime I try to do anything on my computer. In fact, this morning, Microsoft Word just would not work well enough to use on my computer. I could not type words into Microsoft Word. Why was I using Microsoft Word on a MacBook? Well, because the grammar tools, the fine proofreading, it's supposed to work on Apple books or Pages. The problem is with Pages is that it doesn't offer to me refinements i.e., I do not get suggestions about how to change something to make it more grammatically perfect. I do with Microsoft Word. Not being an English major, grammatic perfection is something that, yes, I need to see the suggestion or an example if I got it wrong after writing for how to make it better, rather than just make an educated guess about something that may be kind of cryptic. Now, missing a comma or a period or a capitalization, which is most of the errors that I make, those are straightforward. But when something is not wrong, but a matter of style, a refinement, that is something that one needs to see what the corrector, the editor, is talking about. And if I were to meet with an editor, as would be a normal relationship, where the editor would send the communication, they would tell you why they don't like something that you wrote. They would be very specific about it. Because time is money, right? And when they tell you something, they want to hear that you are or are not going to do it. And they want to hear why you are or are not going to make a change that they suggested. And then it might turn into a demand for you to do it. And if you have a contract with them, you might be obligated to do it. But they will definitely tell you why they want to change. And if you say, okay, I can change that, but I want to make sure that I make an acceptable change. So what did you have in mind? That's the response that you give to an editor when they say, and you truly do not know, when they say, everything's good, but we've cited these line numbers in your manuscript, and they need some work. And after you take their note and look at everything that they cite, and then you say, okay, these 5 lines here, I thought they were okay. You say you want to change. Would you please kindly tell me exactly how you want them changed? Because I thought they were fine and they're not grammar errors. So maybe there's something else that you had in mind. They will tell you because they want it done right then and there. They don't want to waste time because you're not their only client or you're not their only contractor if you have a contract with them. There's no guesswork. Not when you have a contract. Or not when somebody values what you're doing. There's no guesswork. They may not respect you, they may not like you, but they want money. And they want to make money off of your product. So they're not going to mess around with that. But that's that. And hey, we're at half an hour almost, 28 minutes. Actually, the clock on this thing runs a bit slow in the past. Today, it's just about right. It's been off by as much as 5 minutes in the past. But today, 28 minutes on this cycle appears to be 28 minutes online, which is nice. A bank account. That is what I need to collect money, of course. Typically, that's not the way it goes. Typically, somebody is willing to pay a person and allow them to open up a bank account with the money that they paid them. Like I said, that's the way Apple is doing things. Maybe. I don't know, but that appears to be it. They made a contract change after I opened up. After this problem occurred. Before then, they just said provide a legitimate bank account that basically it was implied that should accept money. And there was every implication, every suggestion, every statement that said that this American Express Serve account is made as a business account. It is made to pay out and accept money in. I don't know what's going on with it. It was a shock when Apple came back and said, after some time, I didn't get told anything about it until some time passed. Until Apple said, find another bank that will accept a check from us. I don't know anything about what was going on. They didn't tell me anything about what was going on. They just said, this bank is not it. Find another one. It's disgusting. It's concerning. I don't know what's going on. What the problem is. Now I keep that Serve account. I keep it in good shape. It actually does not allow overdrafts. If the money's not there, transactions do not occur. That is one of the good things about. That is one of the rare good things about strictly debit card accounts. If the money's not there, they're not going to do the traditional bounce your check or cover it up to a certain amount and charge you interest. They're just not going to allow the transaction to occur. The other good thing about a strictly debit card account is that you can use it as a business account. You can use it to keep your bank accounts safe. When you get to the point where you have a sizable amount of money, a savings account and all of that, maybe a credit card attached to your normal banking account through the bank that you bank with, of course. You can take small aliquots of money that you need to do travel and other things and deposit them into the separate debit card. Which means if you are unlucky and someone picks your pocket or someone hacks the bank, you're not going to get cleaned out. You may lose whatever is in that debit account, but you're not going to get cleaned out. That is the other good thing about strictly debit card accounts. One thing that I have to research is I haven't done international travel or banking. I do know that bank transfers are expensive, relatively speaking. Electronic transfers. They're expensive, relatively speaking, and they're that way for a reason. um, there's a need to regulate the flow of money anywhere from bank to bank across state borders in and out of the country. There is a need to do that for many, many reasons. It's a given. And much of that cost is passed on to the clients, the customers, the people, the two parties, first and the second party, between which business occurs, and the third party, the bank, the medium, for that business transaction. That is tightly watched and regulated. Even when you are both the first and the second party, i.e., you are transferring an amount of money from one account to your next account that is under your name or under the name of someone who you do business with. And if you are doing business with somebody, if you are transferring money to someone who you are doing business with, make sure that somewhere there is a document that describes, even if it's a handwritten and then signed document, that describes the business relationship or the agreement, even if it is only the bank receipt for the transfer. Once every blue moon or once ever is not a problem. But when there appears to be a regular business relationship for transfers and other paperwork does not exist, that's when there's a problem. Don't let other people use your accounts without your direct scrutiny. I don't. Even when it is offered for me to do something, one should say, I would rather you take care of the transfer. I know you're doing a favor for me, but it's your account. And that's just not the way things are done. You need to be the hand that signs off on that. I have just recently, and actually several occasions, for an account that is important to me, gone through great lengths to make sure that the names of other people who have been kind enough to pay for things when times were hard has been removed from those accounts. It's called responsibility. I've gone through great lengths, and that is what writing this book is all about, to make sure that I can at least take care of the minimum, very basic, non-extensive, and what everybody else in the world, or most people, many people who have similar accounts, believe is minimally expensive. It has been difficult, even when I have had an alternate source ready to go and listed on those accounts for payment. It was difficult to remove names from accounts for unknown reasons until recently. when something happened in the background. Maybe it was just a change in corporate business policy with the accounts that I held, or maybe it was something else. I don't know. But it was a change that occurred. And it took a lot, it was stressing me out. Why? Because I have a sense of responsibility. So other people's names have been removed from things that I care a lot about. And that is why I'm trying so hard to get this book published. It means a lot to me. It is the only thing that I have been allowed to work on. And I can't say that I have been able to work on it unmolested, unperturbed, unpoked, unprodded. But I have been allowed to work on it. It is more important to me than taking screenshots of celebrities that people might want to use for postcards or something to sell as postcards. Why? Because those photos are nice. Sometimes I luck out and I have an extremely good shot that is probably worth more than one would pay for material to make a postcard. But the material, I have copyright over those screenshots and other photos that I've taken. But the material in those screenshots, if it hasn't already been released publicly, by the time I'm taking a screenshot of it, it almost always has been, cannot be sold by me. I can't sell them. Someone else can sell them, but I can't sell them. But for my book, it's different. Depending on the photo that I use in a book, depending on what I do to that photo before it goes into the book, it's all mine. It's a creative work. Everything in the book is mine. I can make references to other works of art. I can't use long quotes from them, but I can make references to them. And that's fair game. I'm not recreating their work to sell. I'm pointing to it and advertising, essentially, for the other reference, saying, hey, look, I thought this was particularly interesting. You should check that out. That's where dreams live. That's where they are born. I thought it was interesting, and maybe you might think that's interesting also. With every reference that I make of a different author, or an actor or an actress, that is what I am doing. For not just that author, actor, or actress, but for the publisher, the movie industry, Sony, DMV, whatever, all of the big ones that I have cited, or I cited, the Beatles, etc., etc. And that's legal. I added the reference. I said who they were. I said who owns the copyright on that material. And if you want the complete work, that's who you buy it from. If you simply want a word, a phrase, or just a description of what one character spent 5 seconds in the movie doing, well, this will suffice. It's probably largely, greatly, vastly different than what was written in the director's copy of the screenplay. So it's not exactly what was done. And it's probably not even an exact quote from the screenplay when it's a line delivered by a character, because I saw the movie, I saw the screenplay that was finally published, but I never read the screenplay. So a few words here and there are probably different, which is a good thing. I encapsulate the concept when I make a nearly direct quote from somebody else's work, which is what I do with photos also. I alter the photos. In some of the photos, if you weren't a fan, perhaps, of the actor or actress, they are so altered. Well, for one, they're no longer photos. A lot of times they're cartoons or sketches. They're so altered that if you weren't a fan of that actor or actress, you possibly would not recognize that that is that person. But I do, again, make an academic reference. Who is that? Who is it that I admire? Who am I pointing to? Whose work am I directing you to go review for yourself? That's important. Okay, we're at 47 minutes. And one thing, don't sell somebody else's work unless you have permission from them. At the end of the day, it may be okay, but you don't know what is going on with that person every day of their life. It may not be okay at the end of the day. Promote somebody else's work. Don't try to sell it. Unless that's your business, unless that's what you do by contract. And if you think you can do a better job selling somebody's work than they can, you need to contact them. And you need to form a contract with that person. Signing off.